Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer. I am so happy you're here. We're in the middle of chapter 9. This is like deep connection. This is what everybody wants. I know, okay, I'm so busy. I don't want deep connection. I don't have time. But guess what? That's what your neshama wants. That's what our neshama craves. Okay, this is our basura, to crave that deeply, even if we deny it to ourselves and are so busy we can't even be bothered. But we are going to learn today, and we're going to continue on with this chapter 9 about deep connections. So we are on page, and for those of you new to the program, we're reading Marriage Secrets. Get your own copy. All the money goes for tzedakah, for charity, so I can push this book all I want. Okay, we're going to start. We're on page 214. A full partner. My student Devorah stormed up to me one day after class with an axe to grind. She said she was sick and tired of her husband's uncooperative behavior. She related that she had been simultaneously stirring the boiling pasta, making sandwiches for the next day, on the phone assisting her neighbor to find a babysitter, right? Is this like real life? Okay. Helping her teenage daughter with her homework, and trying not to trip over the pots and pans her toddler was pulling out of the cupboard. Then she realized the toddler needed a new diaper. Exasperated, she said to her husband in a harsh tone, "Moshe, can you please change the baby's diaper?" Much to Devorah's horror, her husband turned to the teenage doing her homework and told her to do it. Devorah was incensed. What kind of a full partnership was this? Moshe had no sense of duty about doing what is right. And aside from the fact that he blatantly flouted her request, he also undermined her in front of the family. She said it not only made a mockery of their partnership, but it also made her feel utterly powerless. Unfortunately, I have told the story many times, and most women commiserate with Devorah and eagerly await how I taught Devorah to put her husband in his proper place. My response was much different than anticipated. I gently asked her, "Which would you prefer, to have a husband or an employee?" "A husband," she responded. "What do you mean?" "Well, it sounded like you were giving an employee an order. If you were speaking to your husband, a more appropriate tone would sound something like this: 'Moshe, I kind of have my hands full. Can you or anyone else give me a hand with the baby's diaper?' Had you spoken like this, things might have gone better." I continued, "Men should help out, but it's all a matter of tone. Obviously, if your husband asked you to kindly bring him a glass of water, you would do it if you could. But if he suddenly barked at you to bring him some water immediately, you certainly wouldn't want to do it, or you would do it with great resentment. It's the tone of how you say things that conveys to your husband that his contribution is a gift rather than an obligation. You started out complaining that Moshe wasn't being a full partner to you, but is it possible that perhaps you weren't treating him like a full partner to begin with?" Devorah froze, contemplated what I said, and to her great credit, ultimately nodded. Regret can be powerful. Devorah can't really be blamed for her confusion. In our rush to get everything done and with a lack of clear guidelines, it's hard to know what is right in this upside-down world. I'm going to give you a hard and fast rule that you can use anytime in your married life that you're stuck about how to behave. Always ask yourself, how can I make my husband how can I make my husband feel more important than anyone else in the room? This might be trying at times, but getting the pasta cooked, the lunches done, and the diaper changed all pales in comparison to making your husband feel close to you. Always look for how to bring him nearer rather than pushing him away. Devorah faced a test by Hashem. In the midst of that commotion, could she still gather her husband in rather than pushing him away? If she follows the guidelines of making him feel important, she will pass this test and do the best thing for her marriage every single time. Sometimes regret is the most powerful tool we have to get us moving in the right direction. Devorah was now embarrassed by her behavior and felt guilty about how she had treated Moshe. Not this once, but most of the time. The truth is, regret can often make us feel terrible about ourselves and wreak havoc with our self-esteem. But if we're smart, we'll use any anguish we have about our regrets to motivate us to do better next time. And so it was with Devory. I got an email from her a few months later. She said that the diaper incident was the very last time she had commanded her husband to do anything. She no longer even told him to take out the trash anymore. Instead, she inquired if he was available to do it, or could he ask someone else to do it. Obviously, the harmony in the home improved greatly. Further, she commented that when Moshe was no longer treated like an employee, he stepped up to the plate more often and became the partner she had wanted in the first place. Connecting well with our husband takes thinking ahead. With a bit of planning, by making the dinner routine as streamlined as possible, Devory could greatly improve her odds of success. As an example, she could make dinner a 0 phone call hour. There's a time for chesed and helping a neighbor, but dinner time isn't one of them. And even though she is capable of making the lunches at the same time as doing everything else, just because we can do something does not mean that we should. Putting that level of stress on ourselves not only ratchets up the anxiety in the room, but practically guarantees that something is going to go wrong and we're going to snap at someone. Remember, when you can, try to choose the option to do less and connect more. Many times I'll be at my desk writing, deep in concentration, and the phone will ring with someone who needs me. Usually I must ignore it. I keep very tight boundaries or I'd never get my work done. But sometimes I don't have a choice. So for times like those, I try to have a clear picture in my mind of a scale with accomplishing on one side and connecting on the other. I know I can do one or the other, never both at the same time. I remember the words of Rabbi Kellerman. Being efficient and developing a relationship are mutually exclusive. I'm going to say it again. It's so powerful. Being efficient and developing a relationship are mutually exclusive. Before I get on the phone, I send a tefillah heavenward. Hashem, I'm connecting with one of your holy children. Please, when I get back to my writing, give me special siyata d'shemaya so I actually gain productivity by helping your child. In writing this book, I can't tell you how many times I've come back from connecting with someone and then written with greater clarity. By following Hashem's will and connecting more, things do seem to go better. Often there are times when we have to do double, triple, and even quadruple tasks just to get through the day. But so often we pile everything on ourselves at once without even considering the consequences to ourselves or to others. Perhaps it's just a series of bad habits, but understanding it all is a drive to accomplish, Perhaps it's just a series of bad habits, but underlying it all is a drive to accomplish, which is a value that was handed to us by mainstream society. By gaining clarity on how much it costs us in terms of closeness to our husband and family, we gain the ability to accomplish or to connect. The power is in our hands. Okay, ladies, let's hear what you got. What questions you got for me?
Okay, a lot of great questions coming in. So Eliza says, when I'm upset, I don't want to pull my husband close to me. I don't want to interact much with my husband at all. Can I even change this about myself?
No, you're a person who needs space. You deserve your space. You should get your space. Most importantly, you need to teach your husband that I need space. So if you're like upset and whatever, then you need to say, I'm trying to, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, but if you are, you can say, I'm trying to grow into the kind of person who, when I get upset, I don't get all flubbished and, what's going on, but I just know when too much is happening or there's something, there's a big emotion on my lap, I feel very much like I need to, just process it. I'm a slow processor, I've realized, and I don't want to take that out on you. So would it be okay with you when I'm feeling that way to just go, maybe we can have a code word like avocado, or I'm feeling, I need space, or, whatever is not going to hurt you or whatever, so that I can get that space. That's completely fine and acceptable and meritorious to be able to communicate that to your husband. In other words, knowing yourself and being able to communicate is how you get closeness. So good on you. It's fantastic.
Okay. So Shani
was that clear? Was that clear? Gil?
I think that's clear. Yeah.
Okay.
I just have a question on that question. I'm just wondering, what if she feels like she wants to turn to her husband, but she's so used to like isolating it to herself? Like she goes into her woman cave.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so then that's something to work on and to grow on, and you can even share with him. I have a habit of like, from my childhood or from, prior, relationships with friends or whatever like that, of going into my woman cave, and I'd like to be that person who can connect deeper to you even when I'm upset. I don't know how to do that, and I might blow it a million times, but this is what I'm kind of working on. So if you can bear with me, something like that. Yeah, good question.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, so Shani asks, I get that we should ask for help nicely, but I don't understand why he can't just see that things are flying and pitch in. It can be so hard when I'm in the middle of juggling 10 things and I have to stop and sweetly ask him for help. How can he not notice how overwhelmed I am?
Right.
Isn't this every woman's question?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. But it's kind of like women have their skill set. Like, you can go into the fridge and just intuit where the mustard is. Like you just know what's either in this drawer. If it's not there, or the fridge, what's that thing called? The not a drawer, in the door, a shelf kind of thing, whatever. I don't know. Is it called anything? But anyway, okay. So you can just sort of find, a man can go in, he can spend 10 minutes looking for the mustard in the fridge. I mean, that's just the way it is. That you have your strength. And I'm making broad generalizations. This one happens to be actually accurate. No, but that's how men are. That's how women are. So your husband, you can be flying or whatever. And if your girlfriend was there, and while you're talking to her, she's blessing the kid and you jump up and do something. It's a man thing, he's not going to notice. So you shouldn't be mad that he is the way that he is. First of all, knowing that every woman is in the same boat, that her husband also can't find the mustard, it's like, oh, I thought my guy was like a deficient, missing a DNA piece or something like that. He can't find the mustard. Knowing that that's how guys are, they drive a little too fast. They're a little harsh. That, a lot of stuff makes you calm down and realize this is how God made him. This is how God made me. And you will not feel angry about requesting. You might be annoyed, like you're like, hello, do you realize the pot's boiling over? Like, and you're standing right there, like that. You might be annoyed, but you have to understand that God made us differently, and that's just the way it is. So, but the way in your mind to think is there's probably things that you do that are annoying to a man, like you're always late or you're, something. I'm making up all kinds of typical things, but there are things about you that aren't so perfect either. And just, again, having a preemptive conversation and saying, at night when everything's flying and you're just sitting there on the couch and everything's flying, it's kind of hard for me. Do you have a solution for me? And put the problem in his lap. And then he'll say, oh, maybe don't make the lunches at the same time you're feeding us dinner. And you're like, well, then I have to do it later. And like, I'll help you later, whatever, you'll come up with a plan for later. Very good question. Okay. What else?
Okay, Ruchi asks, oftentimes I choose to multitask and do a lot at once, so my husband realizes how hard I'm working and will step in without me asking. This never works, but I keep doing it. Will he ever help without me asking him to?
I can say with a definitive, the answer. I don't know why you asked the question. No. At the end of the day, no way. Look, we work ourselves to the bone. And you're saying you do that so that you can prove to him how productive you are. And that already is like, he would much rather have half as much stuff done and come home to a smiling wife and a calm wife and a peaceful wife than a wife who does so much and then is a frazzle. And at dinner, she's just snapping at everybody because she just put too much on her plate and didn't have 1 second for herself all day. So if you think about that, if you think about your goal is to be smiley and happy and calm and collected. Not that we can do that every day, but I'm saying if you just have that in your mind instead of thinking, oh, society says that I'm somebody if I accomplish a lot and if I do everything on my task list and my to-do list and, like that, that's an outside world imposing its values on us. What's really most valuable is for you to be kinder to everybody when they come in the door. And in order to do that, you need to have spent a half an hour doing a hobby or reading the book that you're right in the middle of, or having a cup of tea at the kitchen table without feeling guilty. So very, very crucial. We don't take care of ourselves enough. We work ourselves to the bone. Sometimes, look, we all have those times in our life. We've got a bar mitzvah and a wedding, and someone moved in, a mother-in-law moved into the house, and, we all have these things where you're just juggling a million things. And I get it. Been there, done that. However, there is huge chunks of things that we pile on ourselves that we don't have to. For instance, you're making Shabbos meal and you're having, special guests or whatever. Everything has to match, like that's a thing you could let go. It's kind of hard to let go, but also it could be if that's fun for you, if that's downtime for you, then that's a different thing. But if you're doing because you feel like you have to create a certain impression on these people, we put a lot of accomplishing activities on our charts, on our to-do list that don't have to be there. And please forgive me if you're one of those people like Leah, you don't get it. I've got 3 jobs. My husband's out of work. He's been unemployed for 2 years. My life is crazy. Okay, I get it. Anything you can take off that list, do yourself a favor, take it off and give yourself some much needed downtime. Okay, go ahead. What's the next one?
Okay, beautiful. So Asti asks, even when I do manage to show my husband that I'm putting him first, I start to feel so resentful. What about him putting me first? I don't really feel that I've succeeded with all this resentment bubbling up. How do I stop from feeling so resentful?
Okay, so the key here is understanding where the source of bracha in the home comes from. And that comes from only one place, and that's the husband. So rather than resenting him for not doing the activities that you wished he did or saying the things that he said, or you're resentful because you're trying to make him first and he's not making you first, which there's no Masorah for a husband. You're not his Azer. You're his Azer Kenegdo. He's not yours. You know what I'm saying? So, we have the whole thing a little bit upside down. Yes, he needs to respect you and he needs to take care of you. And he has all these obligations to make sure you're happy and take care of your emotional well-being and your spiritual happiness and, all of that. He has all of those responsibilities, and Emir Hashem, he'll step up to the plate on some of these things in a bigger way. However, in terms of the bracha in the home, and by bracha, I mean parnasa and refuah and kids doing nachas, the kids doing well, and the dishwasher handle not falling off, and the car tire not blowing out, and all the things that we all want more bracha in our life. In terms of that, there's only one source for that, and that's our husband. The husband's the giver, the wife is the receiver, and Rav Moshe Cordovero gives over all bracha comes from Shemayim through the husband and to the wife. And so for you to understand that the, what's the word I'm looking for? Exclusivity. The exclusive way a bracha comes into the home is through the husband. And that means that the wife can be doing mitzvahs all day long and they all go up in Shemayim. The only way the merit for those mitzvahs come into the home is through the husband. And so the reason this is so crucial for you is to understand if all bracha is coming from the husband, right? Now that in itself is like, what? But that's just the emes of the Masorah. But what it does for you is one thing. It means that you can have access to that bracha just by appreciating that he's the one who's bringing it, and by saying thank you. That's this, that's the key. We've learned this in our prior shows. Just saying thank you and appreciating that, and turning your mind around to flipping it to understand that it's not a full partnership. He brings 100% of the bracha. There's no bracha in your home. The clothes that you're wearing, the earrings that you have on, the spiritual happiness, the home you have, every bit of bracha that you have in your life only is accessed through the husband. And I went to Rav Asher Weiss, and I'm like, it's like, that's just the way it is. A woman can get the merit. Only the husband can bring it down. Understanding that reality of the world gives a woman enormous power, because now she can access it. How? Just by saying thank you and being appreciated. And that will flip the resentment. It's very hard to resent somebody who's handing you candy and chocolates and ice cream and challah and whatever. So Emir Hashem, over time, as that begins to seep into your neshama and you understand the reality. First of all, you already learned this in the womb. Okay, you learn the Torah in the womb. You learn the Masorah for Shalom Bayis, and once you understand that all bracha is sourced from him, then Emir Hashem, the resentment will get smaller and smaller. And also, when you are thanking him, he will do more. Amir Hashem. Okay.
May.
Good question.
Okay.
Wow. You got to like the heart and core of this whole Shalom Bayis Masorah. Very beautiful.
Really great questions. Okay, so Nomi's asking, my husband works hard during the week and I gladly take the responsibility of the home and kids. However, on the weekends, I really wish my husband would get more involved, but he doesn't. He sleeps a lot, spends a lot of time at Shul or seeing his friends or relaxing by himself. I don't want him to feel like I'm asking him for too much, but it really bothers me. I've tried talking to him about it, but he always says he needs to be able to fully relax over the weekend so he can be productive at work. Even a compromise wouldn't sit well with me. I want him to feel like a partner at least just those 2 days.
A partner in what way? She wants him to do the dishes? I'm not sure I'm following.
Maybe help with the children, helping with the house, helping with just being a family and not just it's his day off, you know?
Right. So it's hard for me to give my 2 cents because he should have completely off for those 2 days. I mean, you know, he works hard during the week, and she's a full-time mom, and if that's what he needs, that's what he deserves and should get. I hear her side of it, and I think she's got to get super, super creative. Like, find out what he loved to do when he was a kid. Like, if, you know, some guys are like, you know, if she says, oh, please play on the floor with the kids and, you know, building blocks. And he's just like, after 5 minutes, he's just going to like jump out the window. You know, that's not his thing. But she finds out from his mom that he loved going to petting zoos, that was like when he was a kid, he would just, the whole family would be sitting in the car waiting for it to drag him away from petting the goats or whatever it was, you know. So then she has to get super creative and like have that be like their regular routine. Like every few weeks they go to a petting zoo. And that engages her husband in a way that is very pleasurable for him, and it will engage with the kids. So she has to find out what specific things. There's some men who don't like to babies, it's like they can't relate to them. They can't, until the kid is like able to have a conversation like a 7 or 8 year old. You know, the kid is just like, when are we done with this? You know, so the different people are different ways. There's some women who are like that. You know, that it's harder for them to relate to babies or toddlers or whatever. And maybe that's the stage of life that you're in, that she's in. I don't know, but the main thing is for the wife to get super, super creative. If she wants him involved in the thing, she has to kind of do it in conjunction with some other activity. Having him like be the go, you know, okay, today we're gonna, you know, go to the park together, or today we're gonna, you know, make chocolate chip cookies together. To expect him to drive that is, I think, an unrealistic expectation. He probably, besides having no ability to do that, or seichel on how to do that, and creativity on how to do that, he probably doesn't want to do it. If the cookie dough was all set up and whatever, and it's just like, okay, you know, can you just come into the kitchen for 10 minutes? We're all just going to make cookies. And it's now, you know, 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and at 11:10 you can leave. He'll come, he'll sit, he'll do cookies a little bit with the kids. And lo and behold, at 11:45, he'll say, oh, I have to go, you know, or whatever. He'll, you know, so the woman just has to get creative. That's the end of that. Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So Nomi actually added on to her question, moms don't need days off either.
If you are working, this is a good question. If you are working, your husband's working full-time and you're a full-time mom, sorry. Yes, you can have a day off when the youngest child is 22.
No.
So now the differences, and Rav explained this once about a woman's, where she has all the stress and the pressure, she also has downtime in the sense of a kid's napping and whatever. I mean, she is going full throttle most of the day. If she's got 8 little kids, no matter what you're doing, even they all go to school, off school age, and everybody's off at school, somebody's always home with the sniffles. Okay. You know, and if they're not, she's cooking for the following weekend, for Shabbos, for Yontif is coming, you know. So mom doesn't really have days off. However, a wise woman will be very, very careful to block out time every day that adds up over the course of a week to maybe a day, not 24 hours. Let's see, 12 or 8 hours. So look, if you do, a half an hour or 45 minutes a day, right? And build it into your routine, whatever that looks like to you, whatever that's, that you drop the kids off at the school bus stop or whatever, you go back home and, it's 9 o'clock and the housekeeper comes at 9:15, and you have those 15 minutes just, or maybe if you have the housekeeper, you have longer. I don't know. Not everybody has a housekeeper. But I'm just saying that you're responsible for your own well-being, and that doesn't mean you get weekends off. That's just not, that's the deal with your husband. Now let's say you're full-time, your husband's full-time, okay, and it's weekend. It's a different story. Then every family has to come up with a plan that allows for equal downtime. And then, let's say you're full-time. If you're half-time, then maybe your husband gets double the amount of downtime as you. Or time. What I mean by downtime is that you're sitting in the living room, both of you are reading a book, having a nice time, and the kids are screaming in the other room and starting a huge fight. You would be the one to call into action if you're a full-time stay-at-home mom and your husband works full-time. If you're both working full-time, then maybe it goes back and forth. Everyone has to work this out. This can't be like something every time becomes a source of tension in the family. You have to have an agreed upon plan of action of how this is going to look. And, it's very, very crucial. This is a very politically incorrect whole topic because, everyone say, oh, it's got to be 50-50 partnership and blah, blah, blah. And I totally hear it. It turns out they did a study in Denmark, and the more 50-50 a marriage was, the double chance of divorce. I don't know why that is, but it's just like if it's so just keep that in mind when you're trying to make things quote unquote equal, that's a recipe for disaster. But you need to have a plan of action, and you need to sit down with your husband again, not when you're in the middle of the argument, not when you're fighting, not when you're resentful, not when you're mad. Afterwards, when you're calm and you really feel like you have a peaceful, good conversation about it, you need to make a plan. Every person needs to have a plan for that. Very, very good questions. Oh, do we have any time for any more?
Nope, that was the last question. Well, we have time for one more question because we're
okay.
Okay, so Becky says, my problem is that accomplishing makes me feel so much more satisfied than connecting. Yeah, listening to my husband drone on about the office doesn't make me feel closer to him, but finishing organizing the hall closet is a great feeling.
Totally get you. I get it. And it's a question of temporary versus permanent. So finishing the closet will be a temporary glee, temporary accomplishment, temporary, like, whoa, that's awesome. A day, 2 days, 3 days later, you won't sort of remember that glee. Whereas listening to your husband drone on, drone on, drone on. And then a few days later, he says, let's go away for a little vacation and leave the kids with your mom. And you're like, what? It's like that closeness. The reward for that kind of closeness is that kind of a thing from your husband. And if you can, in your mind, directly correlate your connecting with him and and listening to him and having deep conversations with him and focusing on connecting with him. If you can do that in a very, very deep way, you will start to see the fruits of your labors. It might be hard to see at first or whatever. The other one you see right away, the closet looks clean, but the deeper needs that a woman have that have been pushed down and hit, society just trashed us, so, the feeling of closeness and satisfaction, everyone is trying to, the whole society says, accomplish, that's will make you feel good. But really what really makes us deeply feel good is that closeness. And we've lost touch with that. Our taste buds are worn out because we haven't had that for so long. And once you get a taste of it, you'll see it'll grow on you. This is a try this at home activity. Okay, let me give everybody a homework. One time this week, when you are about to accomplish something and you're interrupted, as always, you're interrupted right in the middle with the chance to connect with somebody. Preferably this homework should be about your husband, but if that doesn't come up, you can do it with a kid or a friend or something like that. When someone interrupts your accomplishing to try to connect with you, put your accomplishing down. You can always go back to it and connect. That's the homework. Okay, this is Leah Richheimer. We're in chapter 9. We'll see you next time. If you want more, we have so much more. If you want to learn our Masorah and have an awesome marriage, the first thing we have is a coaching program. If you are awesome with people and you want to know the Masorah better than 99% of the people on the planet Earth, like for reals, okay? It's a 4-month program. It's very intense. We have major scholarships, and we have somebody who's granted in a lot to pay for a big bulk of it. It's still a little expensive, but for what you get, and then you can start charging money to know it. That's the coaching program. Don't miss it. Go to www.ladiestalkshow.com. We do retreats. We do all kinds of stuff. You'll find it there. www.ladiestalkshow.com. Thanks for being with us. Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show.